The Betrothed, a book which, if you aren't Italian, have probably never heard of. During my time in Como and Milan, I had the chance to explore many of the streets, monuments, and geographical locations referenced in the book, even coming across a statue of Manzoni himself. Despite its setting in 17th century Lombardy, this novel continues to resonate with readers due to its foundational role in shaping modern Italian culture. This video will use social identity theory to look at how a book built a nation, using faith, language, and location to examine how Manzoni was able to unite a people that hadn't yet existed. In 17th century Italy, Catholicism was not as simple as going to church every week and calling it a day. It was the social fabric that bound together a population fragmented by class, geography, and power. Manzoni portrays a society in which peasants, nobles, criminal, and clergy all operate under the same moral and spiritual framework. While their lives differ radically, the relationship to the church does not. This shared religious structure creates a sense of belonging that transcends wealth, education, and authority. Despite Italy being made of dozens of smaller city-states at the time, each with their own unique culture, Catholicism provides something close to a national identity. Furthermore, the church represents a unique position, one which transcends man. Unlike secular power, which is shown to be corruptible and unevenly enforced, faith appeals to a higher authority that no individual fully controls. By placing Catholicism and God at the moral center of the novel, Manzoni offers Italians a collective reference point, one that levels social distinctions rather than reinforcing them. Peasants and noblemen are seen as equals under God. Through this shared faith, readers are invited to see themselves not as isolated individuals, but as part of a larger moral community. In this sense, Catholicism becomes more than religion. It becomes a unifying identity, one that allows a people divided by city-states and class to imagine themselves belonging to the same group long before Italy existed as a nation. Before the Betrothed, Italy was not only politically fragmented, but linguistically divided. Regional dialects dominated everyday life, often to the point of mutual unintelligibility. A shared written Italian existed, but it was largely confined to elites and scholars, detached from how most people actually spoke. Manzoni set out to change this. Rather than writing in an elevated or regional form, he deliberately revised The Betrothed into a clear, accessible Tuscan Italian, modeled on living speech rather than literary tradition. In doing so, he transformed the novel into a linguistic reference point, one that readers across the peninsula could recognize as common and legitimate. And it doesn't hurt to have some of the best writing you'll read in any book. His text is almost prose-like, and even in its English translation, you can see how he bends words to his will. Genuinely, I don't think I've ever read something as dense and rich. Just take a look at some of his writing. Two eyes, also as black as coal, sometimes stared directly at people with a haughty inquisitiveness. Other times they were quickly lowered, as if to seek a hiding place. There were moments when a careful observer might deduce that those eyes were pleading for affection, for sympathy, for pity. There were others when he might think he had caught a sudden glimpse of a deep and long repressed hatred, something vaguely menacing and cruel. When she stared into space, some people imagined a proud apathy, while others suspected the anguish of a hidden thought. And it was Manzoni's mastery of language, combined with his deliberate use of a shared Italian tongue, that helped transform the Italian language itself. It became a unifying force, allowing Italians from different regions and social classes to encounter the same words, rhythms, and expressions. The Betrothed is not merely set in Italy, it is inseparable from it. Every street, village, and landscape is rendered with such specificity that the novel feels anchored to the physical country itself. The story unfolds across real places in Lombardy, from the lakeside towns near Lake Como to the dense urban life of Milan, grounding the narrative in spaces Italians recognize as their own. Manzoni's imagery does more than just describe. It preserves the layout of streets, the rhythm of daily life, the customs that govern how people move through public and private spaces, all reflect a distinctly Italian way of living. These details are not ornamental. They shape how characters think interact, and understand their place in the world. By embedding the novel so deeply within real Italian locations, Manzoni allows readers to see themselves reflected in the landscape. The mountains, the roads, the cities are not abstract backdrops but shared reference points. In recognizing these spaces, readers recognize one another. Through a psychological lens, we can see how such a novel was able to unite Italy. Here, I want to introduce social identity theory. Developed by Tajfel and Turner, social identity theory suggests that a person's sense of who they are is based on their group membership. For a group to form, people need three things: social categorization, which is defining an us versus them; social identification, which is adopting the group's norms; and social comparison, which is viewing one's own group favorably. In 19th century Italy, there was no us. You were Milanese, a Venetian, or Neapolitan. By using language, faith, and location, Manzoni provided the social identification tools needed to bridge that gap. Language provided the protocol for the group, creating a shared in-group communication that excluded foreign occupiers. Faith acted as the moral boundary, a shared set of values that made the us feel cohesive. Location turned abstract borders into a physical home. Essentially, the Betrothed promoted a single social identity the entirety of the Italian peninsula was more than happy to adopt. In this way, the Betrothed does something quietly radical. It turns Italy itself into a shared experience. Before a unified nation existed, Manzoni gave Italians a common map, one made of language, faith, and place. And through that map, a collective identity began to take shape. So where does that leave us? More than a century after its publication, The Betrothed has been described as the most widely read work in the Italian language, appearing in classrooms and operas, even being praised by the Pope himself. Of the countless jewels the Italian peninsula has gifted to the world, perhaps its greatest one was the story it gave to itself.